Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Ask Sibs. It's episode 20. Can't believe actually we've already done 20 episodes of this new question and answer format. As I always say, I can't believe it's Friday already. It's really flown by this week as usual. Scrambling around a little bit to go live in terms of busy morning with meetings, and I've got a meeting at 2 o'clock. But really pleased that I was able to jump on and finish the week off with an episode. So without further ado, before I run out of time, I thought I'd go on a more personal side. As I've said many, many times also, the questions can be about entrepreneurship, social media, inclusion of disability in terms of the sort of political, economic, legal, big picture side. But very happy to answer questions of my personal story around, having disability, some of my hobbies, just generally chatting through all sorts of things. So I thought today I'd just touch a little bit on my disability. For those of you that have followed me for a while, I'm sure you'll be pretty kind of up on the fact I've got spinal muscular atrophy, and I'm sure I've covered over the years, what SMA is. But for those that aren't sure, so spinal muscular atrophy is a neuromuscular genetic health condition. And basically that means that my mum and my dad don't have the disability, but they both have the gene. Something you might remember at school, the dominant and recessive genes we learned about in sort of year 8 biology. So anyway, they obviously had in themselves, the SMA gene was recessive, but in having me, their baby, then both of the genes that were passed on to me were the dominant sort of SMA gene. So that's just kind of some of the biology science of how I come to have SMA and from the genetic perspective. In terms of how it affects me, mum and dad weren't aware I was disabled when I was born, although I've obviously had the condition since birth. They were unaware of it. And it was when I was about 18 months old that I think they were just probably comparing to some friends and particularly other cousins of a similar age to me. I wasn't moving around like everybody else, so there was obviously a concern. And so they took me to the doctor, referred to a consultant, referred to another sort of neuromuscular consultant, and I had a biopsy. So I've still got a little scar on top of my left thigh. And basically that biopsy then said, yes, Martin has spinal muscular atrophy. And what that, and again, sort of what that means. But what that then means is that there's a lack of the SMN1 protein. So I'm getting very technical here, aren't I? But basically, there's a protein that goes sort of to the muscles to activate, to stimulate the muscles, and there's not enough production of that particular protein. The way I've always described it in more day-to-day sense is that, I mean, I've got full feeling. I'm not paralyzed, so my nervous system works perfectly, but my sort of muscle system doesn't work properly. So that although I can feel all the way down to my toes, I've never had the muscle power to stand up, or as time's gone on, I've got a bit weaker as well. So when I was a child, I could do more with my upper body, like swimming and like playing tennis and from a wheelchair, but my upper arms were stronger. And then, as childhood went on, as I got a bit taller and general, bigger, it's the same muscle power trying to move more mass, more weight. So it's sort of like you feel there's a sense of weakening, but it's partly to do with having the same muscle power, but a bigger a bigger mass to move. So you follow me now. So, but in the end, basically, I'm in a wheelchair all my waking hours. I have to have help with getting dressed, getting showered, going to the toilet, preparing food, cutting up food. So, quite a lot of physical activities I have to have other people do for me. But at the same time, when I'm in my wheelchair, I can drive around everywhere as long as there's wheelchair access. And obviously the big thing more recently, I'd say very relatively more recently, is this kind of stuff, this technology. So I use my phone to do all my work, like typing, folders, filing, social media, everything I use on my phone. And then when I need the laptop, which I'm on my live streams to you, it's better angle with the webcam here than that you've seen on Instagram. I was trying to do some awkward views that were underneath because I can't lift my arm any higher than that. So I use the laptop for these kind of live streams, and I use the phone. There's a special app called Wi-Fi Mouse, which connects the phone to the laptop. So I still type on the phone, move the mouse and click from the phone, but operating the laptop. And so my point here is obviously assistive technology is enabling me to do a lot more independently. Whereas when things pre-computer, pre-internet was more manual, more physical, more handwriting, more filing cabinets, then I was less independent. So that's kind of a example, I suppose, of day-to-day life that is now much more empowered and independent. So yeah, I think basically that was probably what I was going to cover. Definitely wanted to lean more into what is spinal muscular atrophy from that sort of scientific, genetic, day-to-day disability perspective. And I've already done some things around the social model of disability and the kind of, as I always talk about, the social barriers that disable people. I always say that I'm disabled by societal barriers, but I have the health condition of SMA. And so we can talk another day a bit more about the social barriers and disability as a social construct. But I say, yeah, today was more the health condition perspective and how that affects me. So yeah, I hope that was of interest to some of you watching. Going to wrap for my 2:00 meeting just in time. And yeah, have a lovely weekend. And I look forward to being back on Monday for another episode. And again, do send any questions you'd love for me to just talk around and share my thoughts and experiences on. And as always, for those on the live, it's great to get some engagement. I think it's partly because I'm coming on at different times. It's hard to know when I'm going to be live to catch it live. But yeah, I always love those days when we got lots of live interaction. But as always, if you're watching it later on, which many of you do, then of course still feel free to comment or direct message me with your thoughts on today's or any other past videos. Okay, so that's a wrap. See you soon.